Hi, the 80s and 90s were wild times, full of groundbreaking technology and unforgettable toys. Multimedia was just beginning to emerge alongside the personal computer, home consoles, and of course portable gaming. Being a kid during that era was an incredible experience. We witnessed the birth of video games, we watched them evolve year after year. But gaming wasn't the only thing that captured our attention. Gadgets and toys were advancing rapidly, introducing us to the world of new entertainment.
Tamagotchis became our first digital pets, demanding constant attention and care. Furbies, with their creepy blinking eyes and robotic voices, felt like early experiments in artificial intelligence. Power Rangers, action figures and Transformers kept us up entertained for hours, while Lego sets allowed us to bring our creativity to life. Laser tags and nerve blasters turned our backyards into battlegrounds. Technology was advancing just as quick. The Walkman and Discman let us take our music on the go, while VHS tapes and CRT television defined our home entertainment. Personal computers like IBM ThinkPad and early Apple models started making their way into homes, introducing kids to the world of digital interaction. But one of the most unforgettable aspects of the 90s was the ability to take video games anywhere, outside, at school, or even in the car.
Yes, I'm talking about the Game Boy. This small yet revolutionary device sold over 118 million units, making it one of the most successful electronic gadgets of all time. Whether you are playing Pokemon Red or Blue, Tetris, or Legend of Zelda, the Game Boy provided endless entertainment on the go. Today we're taking a look into how this incredible technological marvel was created and why it became a defining piece of the 90s.
But first, we need to go back to the 1940s of Japan. A young man named Hiroshi Yamauchi has just moved to Tokyo. He came to the city to have fun and escape from his studies, which has been suffocating him at home. However, before he could even settle in, he received tragic news. His grandfather has passed away. His grandfather's final wish was for Yamauchi to take over his playing card company. The company, of course, was called Yamauchi's Nintendo, a business focused on manufacturing playing cards. Hiroshi Yamauchi didn't know what to do with this company, because in his eyes it seemed a worthless company that only made playing cards. A decade passed and the card business remained stagnant. Yamauchi has grown tired of it and longed for something new. But he wasn't a man of ideas. He struggled to come up with some vision for the company's future. One day, as he was wandering through his card factory searching for inspiration, he encountered one of his employees. He couldn't believe what he saw with his own eyes. A worker was playing with an incredible toy that he had created simply out of boredom. That man was none other than Gunpei Yokoi, a maintenance worker who would go on to become Nintendo's most valuable figure. Yamauchi recognized Yokoi's extraordinary talent for inventing unique toys and put it to good use. The toy Yokoi has been playing with was none other than Ultra Hand, which became a massive success for Nintendo back in the day. Over the following decades, Gunpei Yokoi designed numerous toys that become some of Japan's best-selling products, transforming Nintendo into a toy manufacturing giant. One day in 1977, while traveling by train, Yokoi was brainstorming an ideas for a new product for the company. He needed something fresh and fast because Japan was still recovering from the oil crisis, which had severely impacted Nintendo and nearly bankrupted it. Then his eyes landed on a bored businessman sitting across from him, mindlessly pressing the buttons on his calculator to pass the time. At that moment, inspiration struck. He envisioned a toy that people could play with it anywhere, even while commuting on trains. Yokoi pitched his idea to Yamauchi, and within weeks Yamauchi introduced him to a friend from Sharp Corporation. One thing led to another, and soon the concept of portable electronic gaming device became a reality. Thus, the Game & Watch credit card-sized pocket computer was born. All of its components, including the screen, were repurposed from the calculator technology developed by Sharp Company at that time. The games themselves were nothing special, but they were the first handheld gaming devices. The company expected to sell 100,000 units in 2 years, but the first Game & Watch units sold 100,000 in just 2 months. Children made up of the majority of the audience, which was surprising since the product was originally targeted to businessmen and adults, and its pricing was relatively high for the kids. Seeing such a success, Yokoi went to a design frenzy, creating various Game & Watch versions and experimenting with new ideas.
It took another 10 years for the technology to become advanced enough to create another portable handheld computer. Nintendo already had experience with video games, as they had released the Famicom home console. Sharp, once again, the company that offered its display to Nintendo, even though Nintendo had initially chosen a different company.
ファミリーコンピューター登場。カセットを挿入するとカラー52色の鮮やかな画像。コンピューターを相手に麻雀、五目並べ、そしてポパイ、ドンキーコング、2人で楽しめるマリオブラザーズなど10種類。ポーズボタンと切り替えスイッチで簡単にテレビ番組に変わるテレビ共存タイプ。家族揃ってファミリーコンピューター。
Famicom console, released in 1983, was the result of R&D2 team efforts. They were somewhat rivals of R&D1, the team that later developed the Game Boy. Since 1965, Gunpei Yokoi has been Nintendo's golden goose, but by the 1984, things started to take a different turn. The Famicom became Japan's best-selling game console, and the R&D2, along with its director Masayuki Uemura, became the new superstar of Nintendo. Although the Game & Watch remained a popular product for a long time, its success led to an influx of clones flooding the market, so private individuals started to turn away from this product. Yokoi wanted to restore his reputation at Nintendo, so he started thinking right from the time Famicom was released about how could he improve his Game & Watch handhelds and make something similar to the Famicom. Right from the start, R&D1, after their first meeting, decided that their screen would be a dot matrix, and right there and then gave their project a name, DNG1, Dot Matrix Game. The first step was to figure out which dot matrix screen they would use, because the screen speed, size and capabilities determine all the other handheld components, such as the number of batteries, the game types and of course the device price. Naturally, R&D1 chose Sharp because they had a long relationship with them. They tested various Sharp screens, even trying a Sharp mini TV with the black and white colors, and although the speed, contrast and shades of grey were excellent, Sharp prices were not. So R&D1 began looking for other screen suppliers, and everyone except one clock manufacturer's supplier, Citizen, rejected their inquiries. But Citizen was very interested in Nintendo's request and was ready to cooperate. After a few weeks, Citizen offered R&D1 their amazing screen at incredible good price. However, Sharp has been a long-term partner of Nintendo, so R&D1 asked Sharp to create something similar to Citizen's screen. Of course, Sharp offered their own screen, but they were not open about the screen capabilities, and the price was 3 times higher than Citizen's. But the thing is that R&D1 never actually used their screens. After the Citizen representative left the meeting room at Nintendo, they already had a contract with a multi-year agreement in their hands. But however, when they were just walking out of the meeting room, A certain man from Sharp have entered that room. No one knows what exactly happened in that meeting room. All is known that Sharp representative forced everyone to reconsider and promised to present Nintendo with even better offer than Citizen. Gunpei Yokoi, who didn't want to take on heavy burden on himself to inform Citizen that they have ultimately chosen Sharp screens instead of theirs. So he decided to send one of the R&D1 members, Yoshihiro Taki, to deliver the bad news. However, Taki devised a plan and said that Sharp would provide screens for now, but after a year they would pursue another project and use their color screens. Taki went so far to provide Citizen with fake development plans, including non-existent 8-bit handheld console, and even invented its price. Taki was very ashamed and frustrated by the situation, but Yokoi didn't give him any choice in the matter. A year passed and Nintendo haven't heard anything from Citizen. After the Game Gear was released, Taki bought one for himself to try it out and see what kind of technology Sega was using. When he opened it, he couldn't believe it with his eyes. The design was very similar to what he presented to a Citizen a year ago, including the fake plans, and the price was very similar. Then he realized that the Game Gear screen was actually Citizen's. It was a little bit sad, but at the same time, at least Citizen was settled with Nintendo. Although Sharp was promised to deliver a screen that matched both the price and the quality of Citizen, it turned out that they were unprepared to do so. Their issues with plans, designs and supply continued for months and was a major contributing factor for the Game Boy's delay. But this was not the last obstacle in the development of the Game Boy. Gunpei Yokoi is often credited as sole inventor of the Game Boy. However, in reality, 4 individuals were responsible for its creation. Yokoi's original version of the device was more of a continuation of the Game & Watch series, rather than complete a new platform with interchanging ROM cartridges and link cable for data exchange. It was Satoru Okada who proposed these features, leading to frequent debates during the meetings. Instead of cartridges, Yokoi initially envisioned using inexpensive screen filters that could be swapped between the games, just like Magnavox. He was strongly opposed to the idea of using cartridges, as he didn't want it to seem like he was drawing inspiration from the R&D2 team's Famicom. It is important to remember that within Nintendo, these teams were rivals. While Yokoi's Game & Watch has once saved the company from bankruptcy, the Famicom and R&D2 were now receiving all the attention. Determined to distance himself from the Famicom, Yokoi insisted to keep the Game Boy as separate from it as possible, even down to the project's name. Meanwhile, Okada wanted the system to be more like a portable version of Famicom, something that could last for years to come. These fundamental differences in the versions led to frequent crashes between two of them. In the end, Yokoi relented, allowing Okada to shape the Game Boy into the device we all know today.
It's hard to believe that we almost never got the Game Boy. The Sharp company, which was responsible for supplying Nintendo with the screen, was still struggling with its production.
While Sharp provided more than just the screen for the Game Boy, it was far the most difficult part of the project. Since the screen was monochrome, many believe it would be a poor choice, especially as color screens were slowly making their way into the market. There was a real risk that Game Boy would feel outdated as soon as it launched. The worst moment came when Gunpei Yokoi and his team, after years of development and countless hours of work, finally presented the prototype to the Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi. After checking out the device, he was deeply disappointed and said that nothing on the screen is visible. Yamauchi declared, "Forget it, it doesn't work," effectively cancelling the project. And the Game Boy was officially dead. No one took the news harder than Gunpei Yokoi himself. He struggled with depression and even considered one day ending his life. The most frustrating part was that there was no major reason that the project couldn't succeed, except for the screen. Rumors spread that someone within the company had whispered doubts into Yamauchi's ear, warning that the Game Boy would be a massive failure and cost the company a fortune. At the same time, Super Nintendo Famicon's successor was on its way to the market and the public was eagerly anticipating it, so Yamauchi didn't want to take any unnecessary risk. Following the project's cancellation, most of the R&D1 team was reassigned to the other projects, leaving only a handful of people working on Game & Watch. But then Gunpei Yokoi refused to give up. He wasn't ready to let the Game Boy die. Instead, he decided to continue working on it in secret, without Yamauchi's knowledge. It was a very risky endeavor, because if they fail, they would lose their jobs. During the development of the Game Boy, R&D1 formed a close relationship with the man from Sharp who was responsible for the Game & Watch screens. This man secretly helped the remaining members of R&D1 develop a new screen. One day he showed them a prototype display that Sharp was working on, which used a super twisted pneumatic liquid crystal display technology. While the contrast of the screen was actually worse than the one R&D1 previously used on their prototype, its viewing angles were significantly wider, and this screen also had a noticeable green tint. The Sharp representative asked them not to disclose anyone about this prototype, as it was not yet approved for external viewing. Yokoi and his team devised a plan to get Sharp to officially acknowledge the screen existence so they could use on their project. After several persistent inquiries, a Sharp board member eventually mentioned the screen. And after a few days, Sharp representative officially presented the screen to the remaining 3 members of the R&D1 team. It wasn't long before this display found its way into the new Game Boy prototype. By this point, the team had already been working on the project in secret for 3 months, with no one at Nintendo aware of it. Armed with their new prototype and factory approval to proceed, R&D1 once again approached Yamauchi hoping to revive the Game Boy project. When he picked up the device and held it at the same angle he had previously made it difficult to see the screen, he was pleasantly surprised to find that this time the display was clearly visible. Although he wasn't entirely satisfied with it, he understood that the screen was good enough to provide players with a visible gaming experience on the go. With that, Yamauchi approved the new prototype. The team could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Not only had they secured their jobs, but their project has been officially recognized.
Here, sign this.
An NDA? Why?
Because only 10 other people in the world have seen what you're about to see, and to be honest, we don't trust you.
Eight-bit graphics?
Yes, and a brand new Sharp LR35902 core at 4.19 MHz with 8 KB internal RAM.
No color screen?
Color, you need 8 batteries instead of 4. It's too expensive. This gives you 30 hours of gameplay, all for $89.
What's it called?
It's called the Game Boy.
In a way, R&D1 had to thank R&D2 for the opportunity, as the delay in Famicom 2 project had set it back by 2 years. Yamauchi felt the pressure of losing customers to Sega or other companies during the gap, as Nintendo had no new products to offer. Gunpei Yokoi's willingness to take risks and his determination had once again saved Nintendo.
And so, after many challenges, Game Boy finally became a reality. What started as a secret project, built with a determination and hard work, would soon change the world of gaming. Gunpei Yokoi and his team faced many problems. Rival companies, tricky technology, and even their own boss rejected the idea. But they have never gave up. When the Game Boy was released in 1989, it wasn't just a successor, it was a game changer. It showed that playing a video game anywhere wasn't just a dream, it was the future. And because of that, Game Boy became one of the most loved and important gaming devices of all time. Thank you for watching.